I hated it. And he's like, are you dumb? Not a fan. Hello, welcome to another video. My name is Gabrielle, and today I thought I would share my least favorite books that I read in 2022. As a little bit of a disclaimer, these aren't necessarily books that were released in 2022. It's just out of the books that I happened to read, these were my least favorite. By no surprise, I rated all of these 1 star, and I'll share a bit about each of them with you and why I did not enjoy them. And maybe I'll do a fun little thing where I will find all of the highlighted quotes that I have in each book, and I'll share my favorite one. If I'm reading and something strikes me, rubs me the wrong way, usually I'll make a note of it, whether it's like haha or ew or something like that. So I'll see what I have. All right, I feel like many people have noted that a lot of the popular books on TikTok and YouTube that are recommended are actually really terrible books, and I think I was hit by that this year. The first book that I absolutely did not enjoy was Crave. This book was so bad. It's the first in a series that's really long. It's still going on. I think the next book is like about to come out if it didn't just come out already. It's about a girl, a human girl, who was born in San Diego. Her parents die in a car crash, and so she goes to Alaska to live at this boarding school where her uncle is the headmaster. Her cousin, his daughter, also goes there, and so as her, closest relative, she goes to live with them. Once she gets to the school, everything's very sketchy. People are acting weird. They're stopping mid-sentence when they start to say things to her. They're obviously keeping secrets. And what do we think from the cover this is gonna be? It's like literally trying to be Twilight. On her very first day, the main character comes across Jackson Vega, who's a mysterious, cool guy that everyone's intimidated by, but she's like totally in love with at first sight. And they're like immediately in love after knowing each other one day. Whatever. And of course it's revealed that the people at the school are all some kind of paranormal, supernatural being. So he's the lead vampire at the school. Not shocked. I think her cousin, who was her roommate, was a witch or something, and then this other guy that was supposed to be in a love triangle with her but didn't actually give me love vibes. It gave me more bestie vibes. He was a dragon. Yeah, so anyways, this book was awful. I will not be continuing the series, but let me find some of the amazing quotes from Crave to share with you. I'll tell you, this book, it physically pained me when I was reading this book because of how cringe it was. The voice that the author gave to the main character was like, it was a millennial trying to write what Gen Z sounds like, and I hated it. I hated every bit of it. 8% into the book. So our main character has barely gone to this boarding school, barely meets Jackson Vega and Flint, the dragon love interest, who at that point it was not clear at all to me that like she would crush on him. Like they definitely seemed like bestie vibes. She says, Flint tightens his warm arm around my waist, and I can't help but wonder why. The guy with ice in his veins makes my skin tingle, and the one literally lending me his warmth leaves me cold. So they're like obviously setting up the love triangle, but it was just so bad. And my favorite quote, almost halfway through the book, her and Jackson are kissing, and she says that he's pulling me against him as his mouth goes crazy on mine. And that just set me off. I was like cackling. I was absolutely dying of laughter as his mouth goes crazy on mine. I don't know what I was supposed to imagine by that. The second book, This is why sometimes I can't just do like romance novels. Like I need something else because I find that for romance, like the plot just exists to further the romance, but I prefer a plot that has some romance. And I don't know why I picked this up. I thought it was hilarious from the cover, but it is Pestilence, which is the first book in a 4-book series called The Four Horsemen. So as you can assume, each of the 4 books is focused on one of the different horsemen. I will not be learning about the other ones because Pestilence was enough for me. It is about 10 years earlier to when our plot really kicks off. The 4 horsemen land on Earth and like run off in different directions and nobody knows what happens. But since then, like power has stopped working, like the transit systems aren't working, like everything's gone crazy. And our main character, who lives in this small town in Canada, is a firefighter, and everyone has evacuated her town because Pestilence, the first horseman to really, you know, spread his disease around the world, literally rides his horse around, and where he goes, he like releases his power to give people sickness. As one of the firemen, her and the other ones are choosing like which one will stay behind in order to defend the town and try to like kill Pestilence and save them all. So she picks the wrong straw and she's going to kill him. She attempts to kill Pestilence when she sees him. He dies and then immediately like comes back to life. And he's like, are you dumb? Like, did you really think you'd be able to kill me by like shooting me and like burning me alive or something? Like, you don't think other people have tried it? And she's like, oh, you're right, dang. And then he takes her as a prisoner. And over the course of the book, like they fall in love. And this was so bad. There was like absolutely no plot. Like every day was just a repetition and we would just get told different versions of the same day. He literally like tied her arms up to a rope and like was dragging it behind him while he rode on his horse. And like she would try to run, but if she fell, she would just be dragging behind. And like that was just every day. And then they would find shelter at night. He would find food from a house that like they found. And then that was it. And like she convinced him to like try some human food, and he learned that like by seeing this one old couple who he spread pestilence to, they were like okay with it and they loved each other. He's like, oh wow, like humans do have hope, like you're not all terrible. And then they were like together in the end, and it was not explained, but somehow he just like gives up his job as Pestilence and like lives with her, even though he's an immortal being and she's a human. They just like live together and fall in love, and it's no like explanation of whether like God will come and snatch him back or what. But then you're left in the cliffhanger that like one of his brothers, like some like earthquake or something happens and he's like, oh, my brother war is here or whatever, like the next one out of the 4. It was absolutely ridiculous. No. Okay, one of my favorite lines from Pestilence is this one. We're enemies, plain and simple. He hasn't forgotten that since I shot him. I should make sure I don't forget that either, no matter how helpful he's been since. That cracked me up because this is at a time when, okay, she tried to kill him because he's ruining the world. And so he takes her as a prisoner and like drags her along behind him. So just because he like finds a shelter at night and like finds her some food to survive, he's been so helpful, and like she's struggling to forget why she shouldn't like him. Like, ooh, the way the romance was built up just made the main character seem so dumb. All right, our third book really had me mad. So people love this book series, and I actually really struggle to understand why, and that is the Zodiac Academy. Similar to Crave, it's a I think there's like 9 books in the series, and it's written by like these 2 British sisters, and it's still being released, and they're all really long, and I did not enjoy it one bit. It is promoted as a bully romance. The story follows two twin sisters, Tori and something else, Vega. Tori Vega, like victorious. Yes, Tori Vega. This man named Orion comes and tells them that really they're the long lost twins of this king and queen of this other world, and they belong there, and they're really poor in the human world, so they agree to go along because he promises that they'll get like money to live and whatever, their inheritance or something. So like, okay, we need money, like let's go. So they go to the Zodiac Academy, which is this prestigious school in their original world, and they are supposed to like be training there to hone their zodiac skills, which are various elemental powers that people can have, and eventually maybe take over the throne. I'm not clear just from the first book, but when they get there, there's 4 boys who are the heirs of the other like noble and nobility couples that have taken place while the king and queen have passed away, and there have been no other, children to take their place. These families stepped up to the plate to fill the role, so these 4 sons and heirs have been like working together in their place. So they see the girls as a threat. The girls are like, we're just here to get our shmoney and go on our merry way. But okay, bully romance. I don't think I want to read any other book that's bully romance if this is what it is, because I hated it. It's started and it's made clear that 2 of the heirs are going to be love interests for the twins, as well as the teacher, Orion. If you watched my video on Gothicana, you will know I'm not a fan of the teacher-student romance. And let me just say now, yes, Gothicana is one of the books in this video. I won't even go on to talk about it because I did a whole video about it, but it is one of the worst books I read this year. Besides the point, I don't like a teacher-student romance. And they're starting to say Orion and one of the twins like might be together. Whatever. First of all, Orion, he has some elemental power, but he's also in the vampire clan. And so he'll just randomly like grab students and suck their blood, even if they say like, no, like to teach them a lesson for not paying attention in his class, he'll just suck their blood and like assault them. Weird. Then the other students, especially the heirs, will just attack the sisters. Like one literally like burned one of the twins' clothes and then had her like walking around naked in front of the whole school as like a joke. They like cut the other girl's hair. They like threw them in some mud. Like it was terrible. And I'm not into someone like literally abusing a person and then somehow like falling in love. Like I don't see it and I don't want to. For Zodiac Academy, there are a few points that had me cracking up because it was clear that the authors are British when our 2 main characters, the twins, are supposed to be from Chicago. So some of the little things they said, I was like, wow, okay, you really didn't you didn't try. So they said funny things like, oh, we're gonna join the queue, like get in line, and like overeating something with mash, like mashed potatoes. This line from Zodiac Academy. Why do you keep touching me like that? I jerked aside, my upper lip peeling back. He released a gruff noise in his throat. Because I'm an alpha babe, and this is how I show you who's in charge. This next book was a big disappointment for me because I know people really, really love it, and some people whose book tastes I share really loved this book, so I was really shocked, but it's Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Caraval follows our main character, Scarlett. She has a younger sister whose name I'm forgetting, but I think it started with a D. Her younger sister D is kind of the mischievous one, and they have a really controlling father who's like a member of the government in their city. That's his job. So he's super controlling. He wants Scarlett to get married to this random guy. She's ready to do it because she wants to get out of her house. She hates it. Now, growing up and in like their place that they live, there's this famous guy, Legend. Legend is like this infamous guy who has this island, and he invites people to go there and compete in this competition. I think if they win, they like earn a wish from Legend, but it was all very confusing. Scarlet has written to Legend like every year asking for tickets to go to his island because her grandma used to tell her all these wonderful stories about Legend and his whimsical, you know, games and all that. So she writes asking and asking. Finally, this year, she gets a response back with some tickets to go. So Dee convinces Scarlet to go. She's like, okay, we will come back home, but we need to escape and go participate. Like, this is our one chance before you get married. So they convinced this guy that Dee was like making out with, who was a sailor, and them his boat and take them to the island. Once they're at the island, Dee splits from them. Scarlet has no idea where they are. So her and Julian, the sailor guy, go into the game to try to find Dee, her sister. Part of the game, it's revealed that like the point of the game is to find Dee, so whoever finds her first will win the wish. And oh gosh, for some reason this just didn't fit for me, where I couldn't like follow along clearly with the story, and I didn't care enough about what was happening to like really focus. I didn't actually highlight that much in this book, so I guess that says a lot, but here goes. They didn't travel here for truth. They came for an adventure. And that's the quote I'll share because I didn't highlight very much. It wasn't necessarily the writing that I didn't like. Like, I don't remember reading it and being like, "Ugh, this line was so poorly written," or things like that. It was just overall the plot got so confusing, and I feel like there was a lot of focus on nice sounding writing that the plot was like, I couldn't get it. So I think that's why I didn't have very many notes. All right, so in addition to Gothicana, my last worst book I read this year was A Ruin of Roses. This is, oof, it's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's about a girl who's not like other girls because she's really tall and strong. And she lives in this town, she's really poor, and everyone thinks she should marry this one guy because she's pretty and of age. Whatever. Some like curse happened that affected their whole world because all the people there are supposed to have this ability to like connect to an inner animal. So they all have like an inner animal power, and for the past, I think like 10 years, nobody's been able to access that. But it's known that like within this forest on the edge of her town, there's this beast that lurks there who kills people. So it's very dangerous to go in, so you don't do it. But people get very, very sick and die frequently in her town, and there's this like field of this magical flower that will heal them or just help with the symptoms and prolong it in order to hopefully help them heal over time. Now, when Finley, our beloved main character, he has to go out into the forest to retrieve this flower because their father has been sick for a long, long time. Her mom like already died from this sickness, but they've been helping their father prolong it. She goes to get the flower. So our beloved main character Finley, you know, is captured by the prince. She has to go be his prisoner at the castle because she was trying to steal what's on his land or whatever, like the magical flower. And so she's taken as a prisoner. And so when she's there at the castle, she learns there's like this curse on the people living there, all the like employees, and they all are like very sexual as part of this curse. Like every night they have these parties where they're all doing crazy stuff. So it's very much an adult book, I will say that. But I wouldn't recommend it anyways. Over time, of course, Finley and the prince like start to like each other, but it's all very sexual. It's not like true connection. It's the first book within a series. There's 4 right now. I don't know if there's gonna be more, but so it doesn't actually do much for the plot, but within the book, Finley's inner dragon starts to like be released. Maybe it's because she's like on the prince's land or something. I don't actually remember why, but her inner animal coming to life. And so the alpha dragon in the prince is like talking to her inner dragon, and like they're in love. And so then the humans outside of the inner dragons have to navigate that, and it was just bad. And then it ends by, I think like the prince gets injured, so she has to like bring him back to her human house, and her family helps him heal. And then they agree that like they're gonna get through things together, but then she wakes up one day and he's gone, and he's like, don't worry, like I don't want you to get injured again, because I think like something was trying to get them. The only thing I highlighted from this was two characters saying, you read too much. Is there such a thing? And it was only 3% in, so I don't think I yet knew how bad this would be. So I was probably still hopeful, but at that point, I do remember this book, it was short. And I was like, oh, I think I'll need to DNF this. But then I was already like at the end of the book. So I guess in a way that's a good sign, like I was able to get through it, but it's just because it was really short. And usually I'm reading longer books, so I thought I would have more of a commitment. So I was like, oh, let me power through. And then when I got sick of it, it ended. Oh my gosh, okay, that was so much. I am sorry if you really love any of these books and my words offend you. Hopefully this will just be a fun laugh if you do like them. But if you also don't like these books, know that you're not alone. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And what was the book that you disliked the most this year that you read? Or alternatively, what was your favorite book that you read? I might do that kind of video next year, keep things more positive. Thanks for tuning in to today's video. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe if you're inclined, but otherwise I will see you in another video very soon.